Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
How's it going?
And today we're talking about volumes 5 and 6 of Vinland Saga. One quick thing I'll say that I thought was kind of interesting about this book is that a big majority of it, I guess there's a bit of the beginning that I'm not counting into this, but pretty early on and until the end of the book, it's pretty much just one continuous event happening throughout these two volumes. It's over the span of 24 hours or maybe even less than that is pretty much this entire piece of the story, which I thought was just really engaging to follow these characters over that relatively short amount of time, but still so many things went down.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, going into Thorfinn.
I think one of the biggest things we get confirmed is that Thorfinn is basically royalty in the sense that he's a son of or not son, grandson of nobility, and that he's the the nephew of Thorkell, which I did not see coming.
Yeah, exactly. That was definitely an interesting reveal, especially kind of from, or well, I mean, I guess it was interesting in all of the ways that we got it, but to know that Thorfinn is actually related to Thorkell, it was definitely funny.
Yeah. Genetics seem a little different there. uh, I mean, he has his great uncle, but you know, he's just towers over everybody, and Thorfinn does not. So,
For
I mean,
sure.
to be fair, all of my uncles are like over 6 foot, and I'm 5'9", maybe 5'10". So I'm a little salty about that. So maybe Thorfinn feels similar. Anyway, I'm wondering if that will play a role. As I mentioned previously, will his royalty lineage matter later down the line after this war, if it ends
Yeah, I guess
relatively soon?
royalty might not be an accurate word exactly, but at least some,
Yeah, you're right.
at least very prestigious high class.
Nobility.
No, nobility. Yeah, right, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, that's just, I guess that's a plot point that I wouldn't mind seeing talked about more.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I was very happy with all of those sorts of reveals. I mean, because that's basically what we had both been wanting, sort of, especially
Right.
after Thorfinn's first encounter with Thorkell.
Hmm.
Speaking of the two of them, Thorfinn just straight up clawed his eye, like Thorkell's eye out,
Oh my
was
god.
was a lot of fun to see, I thought.
I mean, that fight again delivers in some really cool action.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then,
I think it topped their first match. It was
yeah, I
a
think
lot
that's
of
fair
fun.
to say.
But I guess about all of the reveals that Thorkell gave Thorfinn, since it obviously is very related to Thor's and Helga. I figured we could talk
Hmm.
about that here under Thorfinn, since there isn't much else on those two, but they are
Hmm.
obviously very tied to Thorfinn. So yeah. Helga being Sigvaldi's daughter, so we got more detail on that. We knew that she was
Right.
she came from some sort of high status family, but now we know exactly, and it's in fact the head of the Jomsviking. So that was a lot of fun, and makes sense given what we knew about Thor's as well, that they would both kind of come from that background in a way. But what I thought was cool to know also was that apparently Helga never, she seemed to, at least based on her, or based on what Thorkell said, Helga was never really that positive to fighting in general. Apparently she
Mm.
was more against that pretty much always, and so I think it makes sense that Thor's may have adopted that mentality from her, kind of like his pacifist ways that we saw him have before he died.
Yeah, I wonder what made her so supposedly passionate. We haven't really seen that, I guess, opinionated side of Helga
True.
yet. But if it's enough to get Thor's to change his ways, then what caused her to be like that, or was she just always like that? So
Exactly.
yeah, their backstory and how they, I mean, we know how they met, but how did their relationship get to the point where they are basically soulmates? And they and she
Yeah.
changed his opinions. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, that again another point I want to see. Another thing is Helga's father, Thorfinn's grandfather. Is he still alive? I assume so, but is
Yeah.
he just not? Is his nobility mean that he wouldn't be in this war at all? Is that is that what I was to understand?
Like he's got to be old, like because we know that Thorkell is 50 years old, at least roughly.
Oh, okay.
Because he said he had there was a line where he said something like in all my 50 years of living or something like that.
I totally missed that. Okay, great. But I mean, for sure, Sigvaldi had to be the older brother, right? If he
Exactly,
was
yeah.
the ruler.
I also get that vibe. So he's above 50 at least. I guess I was just thinking that Sigvaldi might be too old to be like fighting in the war. So that maybe
Hmm.
he's just kind of at the like in Jomsborg or whatever, where the Joms Vikings hideout, or not their hideout, but their base is, or their town
Mm-hmm.
is.
Their
Like
village, yeah.
maybe he's just hanging out there, and kind
Okay.
of giving commands, sending out messages and stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
But I do agree, he does seem to be alive based on how it sounded when they spoke about him.
Right. So they also refer to him as the Battle King of the Baltic Sea. So why call him king? Is that just a title? Versus,
I get the feeling it's
because
the
we.
title,
Uh-huh.
just
Okay.
because of the extremely kind of badass reputation that the Joms Vikings had. You know.
True. True. So how does this work? So Sigvaldi being nobility is under the king. Is that what I'm supposed to, the king of Denmark? Is
Oh
that
yeah.
what I'm to understand?
I actually don't know under which nation or kingdom he would be nobility of. Actually, I couldn't say, but I
I mean, if
guess
the Jomsvikings are supporting Denmark, then surely it'd be under Denmark.
unless they're more just like working for whoever pays the best. I could see that because
Oh, so they're being paid. Oh. Hmm.
maybe because I at least from what I've understood about the Jones Viking. Well, first of all, it's not guaranteed that they even existed. But if they did, what people seem to think at least is that they didn't necessarily work for one single nation or one single kingdom.
Interesting.
They sort of were flexible enough to kind of work wherever they had the best opportunities. From what I've understood, anyway.
Okay. Okay. And I guess just speaking about a battle that Jomsviking apparently had. I can't pronounce the name, so I'm not gonna bother. But there was a battle between them and Norway, and
Yes.
that's where Thor's basically staged his death. So according to the back of the book, that's a real battle,
Mm.
and with the Norwegian Vikings when they were trying to, I guess, be sovereign, be their own nation.
Yeah.
And so that supposedly within the story that happens fairly recently, at least within the past 30 years or so.
Uh huh.
Um, so I don't know. I just wonder what's Norway doing right now during this whole Denmark invasion of England, or excuse me, Britain.
Yeah. I mean historically I don't know exactly. Although I do know that Norway was on numerous occasions throughout history under Danish rule. It wasn't just like
Hmm.
a thing that happened once over a span of time. I think it was, or at least from what I recall from like like learning about like Nordic history in school, I do think Norway was at various points in time under Danish rule. So that kind of sucked for them.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I'd always thought the Vikings were a little more collected group and maybe weren't separated by nations, but I also I didn't think that one nation would be ruling over the others. But I guess that goes into um, tribes and uh, I guess uniting a country into one nation.
Yeah, right. And it's also different really depending on what part of the Viking Age you're looking at, because
Uh,
Vinland Saga takes place at the end of the Viking Age, and so at this
hmm
point in time, Denmark is Denmark. Like it was united by Harald Bluetooth supposedly, which was
mm,
as we talked about last time, the grandfather of Canute. So relatively like, relatively recently, Denmark
hmm
became Denmark, and Norway seems to be a nation as well, and I think Sweden is also. But I think they're all relatively new countries at this time. At the beginning of the Viking Age, like 300 years prior or so. I don't think they were kingdoms in that same sense. So, but that was still like, I guess that's still considered the Viking Age. And I think the Danish raids in, on the British Isles started to happen even as early as back then, like 200 to 300 years prior to this point in history. So, the Vikings have been active before the nations became a thing.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, actually, I have one last thing on Thor's. I think we were right about Thor's in our first discussion of Vinland Saga, when we said that, like, when he's referring to what it means to be a true warrior, I feel like we got a bit more insight into that in this book, because it seems like what he means by being a true warrior is essentially, I guess, being a family man of sorts. That's basically what we were thinking or speculating on back then, and at least to me, that still seems to be the case based on this book.
I agree, especially with the pose he makes with Helga and all that.
Mm-hmm.
When he says that line, the problem is when Thorkell looks at Canute's eyes and he sees them being similar to Thor's. That's where it gets confusing to me. And I don't know if it's because Thorkell thinks, oh, wait a minute, maybe that's a sign of a true warrior, and maybe that's because he's trying to figure out what that was. Exactly. What was that look in Thor's eye? What I could have gotten that if I went with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of sees that in Canute, and that's what makes it interesting. But obviously, Canute doesn't really have any of those like family ties at this point. If anything, he's kind of severed those family ties. So I don't know. Maybe it's different for each person. Maybe that's what's trying to be implied here. But then again, why wouldn't some Norseman who was a great warrior on the battlefield who was very passionate about it, why wouldn't they be a true warrior in that sense? I don't know.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I guess the way I interpreted that look in Thor's eyes, which Thorkell also later saw in Knute's eyes, I think it was a look of a pacifist.
Okay.
I think that's the common.
Good point.
The thing that Thor's and Canute have in common, and especially in those moments, in those scenes where Thorkell sees them with those eyes. So I think that's what that was supposed to mean, but Thorkell, I think he misinterpreted it into being related to the true warrior type of thing, and obviously yes, hence why he chose to follow. But I mean, obviously I don't know for sure, but.
Right. No, that's a good point. I think I'll definitely have that mindset going forward. I do think it's funny calling Thor as a pacifist, which he doesn't want to kill, but he'll kick your butt. So I'm a pacifist that could wreck you, So it's just so funny.
True.
But you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he doesn't seek a fight. And
you're right.
And he in the first book he had this whole talk about, or he was telling Thorfinn that he has no enemies, and
right, no one has enemies.
And yeah, exactly, nobody has enemies, and I think he stands by that he doesn't have any, which is why he shouldn't need to fight, but he only fights those who seek to fight with him, which obviously sadly it happens, but anyway,
right.
I guess that's something I'm really hoping for Thorfinn to come to terms with eventually in the story. The fact that he doesn't have any enemies.
Canute mentions that, no, you guys don't have any enemies. He says something similar, but then he's like, I will give you enemies. He's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, right.
That's a little contradictory. However, thinking about it, perhaps it's more like the enemies I give you will be for protection, not... we're protecting our family. We're protecting our country. I'm protecting you as king by giving you that enemy at that moment. But normally you don't have enemies, so maybe it's in that way.
Yeah.
But it's not really clear. So.
Right. I mean.
Anyway.
I like the fact that he isn't like a copy of Thor's.
Yeah.
like
Mm.
his ideology that he kind of picks up in this in these volumes is definitely similar to Thor's, but it's definitely not identical. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, well, and like at least the way I see it is that Knute's ideology is like, I guess, a slightly flawed version of Thor's ideology, perhaps,
Oh.
or at least a more immature version, because obviously he's younger and he doesn't have as
You're
much
right.
experience, so it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be it won't be as refined, I suppose.
It also has the air of nobility,
Yeah,
royalty, that's associated with it. So
right.
it'd probably just be inherently different. They're both with their mentalities, but still, yeah,
True.
I like the comparisons, and I'm excited to see, if Thorkell can find what he's looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thor's told Thorkell that he will go somewhere that's not here, and it's just a small thing, but I thought it was nice that he said, like, he used those words, because that was the last thing that Hordaland said at the end of chapter 1. Somewhere not here,
Oh,
or somewhere that's not here, when she talked to Thorfinn before they moved back in time.
I think I have more to comment on that, but I'm gonna
Mm.
wait until a little later.
All right, don't
Um,
forget about
yeah.
it.
No, hopefully I won't, but maybe you'll bring it up when I bring it
Cool,
up.
cool. But anyway, moving back to Thorfinn, if there's anything more.
Yeah, so just one thing about his relationship with Askeladd, it feels kind of like an uncle figure. Yes, he still wants to kill him, but at this point, you can't say father figure, but he's definitely supports him like kind of a family member,
Mm.
not related by blood. He goes out of his way to save Askeladd. I mean, yes, he's going to be the one to kill him, but only he can be the one to kill him.
Yeah.
Um, and it's under the guise of revenge, of course. But I think, he's been with the guy for a few years, and there's probably a bit of attachment to it as well. So I think it's fair to say it's something like an uncle, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's complicated, but I guess
Oh,
that
absolutely.
that could be the case with an uncle as well.
Yeah, think of
Yeah.
Scar, or whatever.
Right.
Scar from not Full Metal Alchemist,
No,
from
the Lion King.
Lion King.
Hmm.
That's all I have.
All right, then let's move on to Askeladd. Then his men start losing trust in him, like just very briefly at the start of
Hmm.
Volume 5, and then obviously later on they full on go against him. And well, I guess it doesn't really matter since pretty much all of them end up dying anyway. But it's really just everything kind of has been going downhill for Askeladd, like especially during these two books. But I guess it started even a little bit before, but especially during these two
Right.
books, Askeladd just did not have an easy time.
No. And honestly, I did not see this coming when I started the book.
Hmm.
The entire mutiny
Yeah,
of his group.
it just kind of creeps up on him.
Right. It does. Yeah, and I think it leads to some pretty cool moments, intense moments. And then when he shouts, or not shout, but he just exclaims to everybody that I hate your guts, like I hate all you Danes. um, which kind of confirms what he said in in the previous book. We were like, well, did he really mean it? It's like I think he really meant it.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess going back, his luck running out. I mean, I really can't say much to other than fate or think things happen. Like
Hmm.
there's not much you do against it. All his scheming. I mean, to be fair, if his men would have uh, gone with the plan of destroying the bridge and crossing the river and just kept going, they probably could have made it out okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean,
of
yeah,
course,
exactly.
they can't trust these people. You can't trust these Danes.
No, nope. I love how the conflict in this part of the story has been purely between the Danes.
Yeah,
Like, they're in England and all, but the English people are not the problem. It's only themselves.
it's true. The poor English at this point. But that actually brings another thing
Mm.
with Askeladd is he was talking about the Anglo-Saxon history. He's like, well, you guys
Yeah.
came in and wrecked my ancestry. The Celtics
Mm,
and basically the Welsh people
right.
took all this land away from them. So are you really that much worse than us? I don't think so.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think his hatred extends beyond the Danish to probably the Britons as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, anyway, I think for Askeladd, he takes a lot of pride in that Welsh Celtic heritage, as we talked about before,
Right.
and it probably doesn't see himself as from Denmark.
Right. At the very least, yeah, exactly. He seems to kind of neglect that part of himself because
Hmm.
he from what we've seen about his childhood, because we saw a little piece last time, and we also saw a little bit more here, and it seems like his father wasn't really part of his upbringing,
Right.
at least from what we've seen. It was pretty much just his mother who was for, his Celtic side, and based on especially what we saw this book, it definitely seems like he had a pretty rough upbringing, like a pretty just living very poor, and his mother seemed to be
Hmm.
sick, in the scene that we saw there, and so yeah, he must have had a really bad childhood.
Well, yeah, must have really scarred him.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I would love to see more about how he got to the point where he is, where he has his own band well, he did have his own band of Viking pirates. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to kind of see that progression
Oh yeah,
when he gets to
or
that
even
point.
just more of his like younger life.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
also
yeah,
something I'd also really like to see. Kind of
absolutely.
where does he really come from? Like how did he become who he is? But you're right. Also how he became the leader of all of those Vikings. Because I mean, really, he seems to have really made a name for himself, being hired by the
Hmm.
Jomsviking, or at least being, or not officially, but being hired by Floki, at least
Hmm.
for that job and all of that. Because I mean, they're truly great warriors, not compared to Thorkell, but still.
Right. Speaking of his childhood,
Mm,
his mother mentions again King Artorias, and
yeah.
he's like, "Well, that person's dead, right?" And he's, "Oh no, he's waiting for us in the west,
Mm,
in Avalon." And so that seems like a paradise for their people, and I
mm,
guess maybe for Askeladd here. And what I noticed in this book, and I think about the previous books, is everyone is looking for a paradise, some sort of paradise, whether it be
yeah.
the Vikings with um, Valhalla, or it's the Christians with whatever paradise they're looking for. Heaven, I guess you could say.
Uh huh.
Everyone wants some sort of paradise, and even specifically with some of these characters. You know, Thorfinn wants or dreams about Vinland,
Yeah.
or that's kind of his paradise.
Yeah.
Um, there was another character. Well, Avalon, of course, but felt like there was another character. Oh, yeah. Canute mentions creating paradise in this world,
Oh yeah.
because I guess God is not able to give that according to his definitions.
Mm,
And then you mentioned Thor's and Hordaland
mm,
about somewhere out there kind of being the place they find, and maybe that being their paradise.
yeah.
So I think uh, finding that paradise is a theme in this story.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I hadn't really put all that together, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right for sure. And yeah, and also about Avalon and how and that whole thing, how Askeladd seems to feel like he can't wait much longer for the true king to return from Avalon. I think he said that near the end of this book, where he like pretty much before he goes up and pledges his loyalty to Canute, and so it got me thinking that what if, like, or does that mean that he hopes to turn Canute into that king from Avalon,
Ah, interesting.
or
Maybe.
does it
Hmm.
mean that he himself aims to become that king himself?
Also a possibility.
So yeah, I just feel like there's something up there, because I mean, not only did he pledge his loyalty to Knut at the end of this, but he also confessed to having killed Ragnar.
Mm-hmm.
which was just a really interesting move, like just unexpected move, I thought. And I just wonder, is there anything more to that? Like, does he have any like concealed intentions
Well,
there?
I go to his conversation with Bjorn about, you know, I choose the man I follow,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe he's come to the acceptance that he could never be a king, maybe, be royalty, and so because Canute was able to eventually fill that role, become that person, maybe he felt comfortable in pledging himself and whatnot, and maybe he is trying to make him king of Avalon or something like that. But
Mm,
I'm not. Obviously, I'm not entirely sure, and I wouldn't put it past Askeladd to have something up his sleeve or some sort of plan.
absolutely.
Um, but it does seem strange to me that he'd be talking about Bjorn,
Mm.
talking to Bjorn about this, and not. It seems like he's talking about it seriously. Like why would it matter if Canute can be a leader of men if you're just gonna stab him in the back anyway? Unless you need to get him to a certain point, which okay, maybe that is something. I
Mm.
don't know.
Yeah, at the very least, I think Askeladd definitely noticed the change in Knut when he returned there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty clear based on, I guess, the panels that we saw of Askeladd's kind of reaction to that. It seemed like he genuinely noticed a difference, like a change within Knut. So I
Right.
suppose it could be genuine too. Like he's really hard to read, I think, because I really I could see it going either way completely, like 50-50, with either
Mm-hmm.
him having something fishy up his sleeve or just genuinely choosing to follow him. Like I really could see either.
Yeah, I agree. It can go either way. And just talking about Avalon and what his mother told him
Yeah. Hmm.
that one day something will happen. What? What will happen? You just don't end it. Say it. Why does manga keep doing this? Ah, frustrating.
Yeah.
What is it? Find peace? Find freedom? What woman? What? Uh,
Hmm.
and I think maybe it goes back to Askeladd's statement that hey, we're all a slave to something, and
Hmm.
we were trying to think of what could he be a slave to? Uh, because of what mother said and the idea of Avalon, I had a couple ideas. Well, what if finding Avalon or creating Avalon? Maybe that's what is actually he's a slave to. Maybe it's the freedom. I think you mentioned that. You said, "Oh, what if he's a slave to freedom?"
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's it. Um, and that's he feels like reaching Avalon would be freedom, the paradise. Peace, maybe that's the thing. Although he doesn't seem like a very peaceful person, so I don't know. Uh, Although to be fair, he doesn't like to have outbursts. He very much values controlling himself.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. That's something we got to see here in this one.
Anyway, so
Hmm.
just some thoughts, and I know it's all just I guess thematic. I don't know if it's gonna say I am a slave to this ever in the story. If it will say it like that,
Right.
lay it out like that. But I do like thinking, especially when a character themselves says something as profound like that.
Hmm.
Okay, well let's see it apply to yourself, Mister.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I'll probably stand by what I said on our first discussion about him being a slave to freedom, supposedly, or at
Hmm.
least it's still my best guess. But
I think it's a pretty good guess.
mm. And actually, that's sort of, or well, I don't know if it has anything to do with what I'm about to say. But however, he seemed, at least from what I thought, he seemed legitimately startled when Ragnar told him about Knut's father having sent Knut into the war to
Mm.
purposefully to with the intention of him dying in the war.
Hmm.
At least the way I read Askeladd's kind of reaction to that, it seemed like a genuine kind of startled reaction.
Yeah,
And
I
so
agree.
so maybe that was like a small little step toward him starting to feel some sort of compassion for Knut.
Well,
Although obviously that was before Knut's growth happened or before his change occurred. But it might have done something at least within Askeladd maybe.
honestly, I think it's more so. Wow, this is a much bigger pain than I thought it'd be. Like, this is gonna be harder than I thought.
That's
Because
fair.
when you have dividing factions like that, that means you have to go up against another group of Vikings instead of just
Hmm,
from the shadows supporting one of the princes. Uh, now it's there may be a warring, some sort of war between those two factions.
true. Yeah, right, yeah, and like he's not only opposing Svein, he's
Yeah, not just the
also
king.
yeah,
Now
he's
he's
opposing the
opposing
other prince as well.
the other prince. Yeah,
True, true.
so it does make it a lot more political and complicated.
But something that I hadn't expected was that apparently he had a at least somewhat of an encounter with Thorkell in the past. Like they had been at least on the same
Yeah.
battlefield in the past, which was very advantageous to him and Thorfinn in the moment, since Askeladd knew one of
Hmm.
Thorkell's weaknesses. Thanks to that, so he was able to help Thorfinn in that duel. Not only with the tactic kind of giving him the like just telling like him how to do it, but also he
Hmm.
uses sword to blind and Thorkell, like from the sun, like the reflection of the sun in his sword, was pretty dirty, but I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thorkell was getting all mad that his men were going to kill Thorfinn. I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but
Yeah,
to be fair, Askeladd did, intrude on their battle, whether they knew that or not.
yeah. I don't think, or at least yeah, I don't think Thorkell noticed that Askeladd did that.
I hope not. I
At
hope not.
the very least, not on purpose.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like he had any sort of gripe with Askeladd in the moment, at least.
I mean, it's like it's almost unfair to have Thorfinn go up against Thorkell like that. So I'm glad Askeladd was there to give him a chance.
Yeah.
And that instant actually reminds me of the Bible story of David and Goliath. I doubt it. It's
Ooh.
it's not a one comparison, but the slingshot. At least, actually, I don't remember what it says exactly, but
Mm.
I'm pretty sure like the stone or whatever hits him in the head, and that knocks him out.
Ah.
So that maybe that's a comparison in that
Yeah.
in order to defeat the giant, you got to hit him in the head, concuss them.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
Anyway,
Huh. Huh.
I guess my last thing about Askeladd is just when he loses control, he literally was able to cut a guy in half with a sword, like down the middle.
Yeah.
What in the world?
That
That's
was
insane.
that was brutal. Yeah, through the helmet and everything.
Yeah.
So
What?
much for wearing a helmet.
God.
Uh,
Oh, my bad, guys. Sorry, I shouldn't have yelled.
it was pretty funny, to be honest. Just that turnaround kind of. Uh, but yeah, he is a beast, and I mean we knew that from his duel with Thor's. Well, I mean obviously Thor's was better, but still,
Right.
like Askeladd definitely gave him a run for his money.
I don't just think I understood how strong he was. Like I knew he was
Fair.
strong, but I didn't know he was that strong.
No, no, right. But moving on to Prince Canute next.
Well, I do think Canute begins to doubt his Christian faith, or at least some of the ideals that he's been taught.
Mm,
I feel it's more so he's coming to grips with the fact that his father doesn't love him, or that
yeah,
his father wants to kill him. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, like up to now, he has definitely been in denial about his father having
yeah,
those sorts of feelings or those sorts of plans for him. But here, he definitely came to terms with all of that.
absolutely. So, I mean, I think it's kind of the religion symbolizes, or at least his religious beliefs kind of symbolizes that mindset change.
Right.
From just thinking, oh, father can never hate his child, not love his child, to, well, yeah, my father wants me dead, so I'm gonna keep living.
Yeah.
And just the whole personality change, just the 180 really.
Yeah, and it went really fast too.
Right. And sometimes you see that it's like, oh, that's not well done. But I think in this case, while it was quick, I thought it made sense for what he was seeing, what he experienced,
Yeah.
and kind of the advice that he was being given.
Hmm.
I thought it it was a good moment. And sometimes I think our minds can be changed if we want it to. If we're seeking that, I think sometimes they can be changed fairly quickly.
Yeah, right.
Especially if it's something that we've been thinking about.
Absolutely. And I think on my first read through of this of these volumes, I did find it a bit, or I thought it was a bit too fast, that turnaround.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
But when I reread it today, I thought I found something that made me feel like it was more realistic, or I thought it made more sense, which was
Oh.
that love as he knew it actually just being discrimination.
Oh.
Is because, like, at the core, that's kind of at least one of the conclusions that I think he made during his conversation with Willibald there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that he came to the conclusion that the love as he had known is actually just discrimination, it spoke to him because that's what his father, like, he thought his father loved him, but learning that love is actually just discrimination, it's also true because he was being, in a sense, discriminated by his father, because his father was constantly putting his brother above himself, or above Canute.
Interesting.
And so I guess in that way it spoke to him and made him, I guess, change his mind easier, because it became, I guess, much more of a personal thing than I mean, it was already a personal thing, but I think this would, like, goes even deeper and kind of contributes even more to him changing his mind.
What I find even more fascinating about that kind of idea about love is that he even comes to the conclusion, or at least Willibald tells him, that Ragnar's love for him was just merely discrimination as well.
Right. Yeah.
So, having it both the way his father treated him, or is treating him, and how Ragnar treated him is just discrimination. It does make you think. And I think it is what drives Canute to eventually change, or I guess change right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, I think it's a pretty cynical way to view love. I don't agree with that view on love.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that is what love is. But it is an interesting thought, though. Like, I can see the logic in it. And I think it's, yeah, it definitely is an interesting way to view it, at the very least.
Agreed. And I think I have more thoughts about it when we talk about Willibald.
Mm-hmm.
But for Canute's sake, yeah, it helps him change. And basically, I feel like he kind of rejects God in a way. Rejecting God is also rejecting his father. I feel like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, because he was holding on, like, at the beginning of this book here, he was really holding very strongly onto the idea that every father loves his son.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for both God and his own father, King Svein. That's what he very strongly believed, or at least tried to tell himself, at the very least.
Right. And instead of waiting for God to create paradise, he just says, I'll create paradise. And I think, again, that's a parallelism to what his father, instead of just kind of letting his father do whatever he wants and just killing him, he'll fight back. He'll create his own paradise. He'll create his own kingdom, in a way. I think there's some comparison to be made there as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, great stuff in terms of, I guess, character change.
Yeah.
I do think, even more so than the quick character change, character development, I think it was the conversation with Bjorn that it was a little hard to believe. Like,
the fact that he was able to calm Bjorn down, you mean?
I mean, not just calm him down, but like push him back. Like, it's like some sort of force move. Like, what?
Oh, wait, did he push him back?
I kid you not. That's what I got. Okay. let me just turn to that part.
Yeah. I'm gonna look for it.
It's in the later half, like towards the beginning, I believe.
Yeah.
So chapter 39, he gets angry face, and he just kind of just stares at.
Oh.
With his angry face, he stares at Bjorn, and Bjorn. He walks towards Bjorn, and Bjorn just like jumps, like recoils away, like he's been pushed back, like with some sort of force.
Right. Yeah. That's right. I guess that definitely was weird. I guess I I chose to read it as Björn being intimidated and kind of jumping backward for that reason. I don't think there's any like physical shove though.
No. Oh, absolutely. No, there is not any sort of stuff. There's no contact, and
Mm.
that's why it's still funny to me
Yeah.
because in the way he just he recoils back. Yes, like that look he gives is pretty frightening. But the man is like on the mushroom drugs. How could like what does he care? And then he somehow is able to calm him down. Look, I'll give it. Maybe the drugs were wearing off. Maybe that's what it was. But
Yeah.
it's just a little hard to believe that just getting angry eyes would suddenly change someone. But hey, I'm not a king. Or I'm not royalty. So, maybe I don't have that aura.
Right. No, but I mean, you're right. You're right. It's not completely realistic, but it's a good scene though. I like it. I like it.
No,
still.
I do like the scene. But yeah, reading it first, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like really. But again, yeah, the scene is good, and it shows like he's ready to take on that mantle as a leader of men.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, it's really interesting. Also, like, obviously, as we've said, it's a very distinct change that happens within him.
Mm-hmm.
He pretty much feels like a brand new person. Like, well, pretty
Yeah.
much like Askeladd was theorizing, like he could be reborn as a new man, essentially. But
Mm-hmm.
I hope he isn't completely changed. Like something, I hope he still has that sensitive side to him as well.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there,
yeah.
and his desire to do things that aren't necessarily like royal kind of stuff, like cooking and stuff that he wasn't allowed to do
Right.
for his father. Like just I hope all of that is still there. I mean I expect them to be there. I don't think they would be
Absolutely.
just completely gone, but I guess I am eager to see that after this change. I'm eager to see some of the old traits in him as well.
I would be kind of disappointed if he becomes king, however the story goes.
Hmm.
He takes his father's throne and just kind of becomes like another one of his fathers, or just another,
Yeah.
Viking who just does whatever, or a royal king that does whatever. Uh, I mean, that's just where his character goes. That's where it goes. But I feel like he just has a more sensitive side to him. But now he just has the aura of a king.
Yeah, absolutely.
One last thing is, Ragnar was basically his father to him. Like
Yeah.
actually was that father figure for him, and
Mm.
to see that figure taken away from him was really sad.
Yeah.
And you understand why he acted so distraught. But I'm kind of with Askeladd here in that it maybe was needed. I mean, look, I don't want to encourage murder at all.
Good.
And it made it sound like I would. But it did really help Canute kind of let go of his training wheels,
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least, it sped up his character growth or his
Right. Yeah.
personality growth or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And one quick thing about his brother, by the way, we got to learn that his brother's name is Harold.
Yeah.
Which is probably like he was probably named after their grandfather Harold Bluetooth, who we talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was interesting to get a name there for the brother. Or I mean, I suppose anyone could have probably looked that up on in the history in
Sure.
history. But anyway, my last thing on Knut is about what we talked about before, about how Thorkell saw the same look in Knut's eyes as he had seen in Thor's eyes, and how, well, I mean, I speculated that might be like basically the pacifism kind of, that kind of mentality within them, and that he saw that through their eyes. But on that, I think it would be nice for Thorfinn to, like, since obviously he hasn't got that mentality, like he doesn't have any sort of pacifist mentality, at least at this point in time. So I was thinking it would be nice if he could learn about that from Knut moving forward. Would be a fun thing, since he, his father didn't have time to teach that to Thorfinn. It would be cool for for maybe Knut to pass that on to Thorfinn instead.
I agree, and I'm intrigued to see how Thorfinn will, I guess, handle this character change for Canute, because obviously before at the very beginning he didn't think very fondly of him, but
Mm.
I felt like over time he was starting to see Canute in a different light, and maybe as kind of a friend. But now that Canute's gone all manly man, pacifist man, like I wonder, uh, yeah, I wonder how that will change their dynamic.
Yeah. There's a lot that I'm interested in now regarding Knut's change here, both in terms of himself, like how much has he actually changed. I just want to see more of
Mm,
him, but also, yeah, his relationship to his relationships to the other characters,
yeah.
for sure. But is that it on Knut?
Yep.
Then moving on to Thorkell, and I'll start off by kind of continuing on what I said a little while ago on in the Knut discussion about Knut perhaps being able to pass on some knowledge to or some wisdom to Thorfinn. Uh, Thorkell told Thorfinn, I think was it during or after their battle or before it? It was at least somewhere around the duel they had. He told Thorfinn that he hadn't learned anything from Thor's. To which Thorfinn obviously he got pretty pissed at that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think Thorkell is right. I don't think
Oh yeah.
Thorfinn has learned anything from his father, or at least not anything that we've seen. And so that was what gave me the idea that it would be cool for Knut to pass some, or to teach Thorfinn something that his father knew.
Sure.
But obviously there's other things as well, I mean, there's a lot. There was so much, even though Thor's was really only in like the first two books or the first two volumes. There were so many like life wisdoms kind of that he in one way or another expressed. And I think there's and
Mm-hmm.
like all of it went above Thor's head, or Thorfinn's head, sorry, because he was too young to understand it. Probably. So I guess that's why Knut is probably a good channel, sort of, at least to some of it.
Good point.
But anyway, yeah. Back onto Thorkell. Besides the fact that I think he was right when he said that Thorfinn
Yeah.
hadn't learned anything from Thor's.
I think it's kind of unfair of Thorkell to be like that. I guess he doesn't understand the situation that Thorfinn comes from,
Mm.
but he knows that Thor's is dead. Thor's is what, 10, 11 years of life
Uh,
with, or Thorfinn's
Thorfinn, Thorfinn, yeah,
10, 11 years of life with Thor's.
or like 6 years maybe. I think he was
Oh,
like
six
6.
years? It was six when it happened? Oh, so maybe,
I'm not sure if we gotten like an exact, but at least based on what I've been trying to figure out, I think he was about 6.
gotcha. Sorry, I get all mixed up.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
But in that short amount of time, like, especially as a child, you can't really expect him to know that or to learn
No.
that always. But
Mm.
I guess you would have hoped he picked up on that side of him. Although I don't think Thorkell himself even knows what that is.
No. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like Thorkell probably spent more time with Thor's than Thorfinn did.
Yeah.
Like 6 years. Surely they were part of the Jomsvikings together for at least probably more than 6 years.
But when did Thor's really change, though?
True.
Uh,
Oh yeah. You're right. You're right. That must have been toward the very end. So yeah, you're right.
right.
You're right.
But I do see what Thorskell is saying in that it is obvious that he hasn't learned what it means to be a true warrior from his father, and that not only was he mad because hey I am my father's son kind of a thing, but also that's kind of one of his burning questions as well.
Yeah.
What is a true warrior? So they both have that in common.
Right. But anyway, we did get like all. I mean, we've already talked about the backstory that we got from Thorkell, but I think that was one of, at least I think you had some speculations or at least some desires that we would get, the more answers about Thorkell's knowledge or Thorkell's relation to Thor's.
Right.
during their next encounter. So we did get that. And what I thought was what I thought was pretty interesting was how Thorkell cried when Thor's died. And he kind of like when he told about it, he kind of brushed it off by saying that he only, or at least it seemed like he was trying to make it sound like he only cried because he wanted to, beat Thor's with his own hands, kind of. But I do choose to, I still choose to believe that he cared deeply for Thor's as a friend. It's still something I stand by, even though he kind of tried to seem tougher. I mean, I guess still might be the case still, but I more like the idea that he's trying to kind of just conceal that with other, like, kind of with that humor or with that other type of mentality. I think he cared deeply for Thor's.
I think that's fair. And he was also just chilling on top of their hut, it seemed like, the Thor's and Helga's hut.
Yeah.
He finds them and he's just chilling on the roof. So I'm guessing there must have been some heartache there,
Yeah,
like,
no, absolutely.
he was still trying to get over it.
For sure. Plus the fact that he honorably stayed quiet about Thor's and Helga's escape, I think also kind of shows to his, like, kind of, I guess, friendly loyalty toward Thor's.
I mean, if he just wanted to fight him, he would have told everybody and then dragged him back somehow.
Exactly, right, for sure. So yeah, I think there was a friendship bond there.
Yeah. I guess just some of the moments that happen in this volume, he looks horrifying in that art when he's about to fight Torgrim, or however you Torgrim, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that panel. It's so good.
Absolutely frightening.
I don't blame, like, Torgrim for, like, going completely blank
Losing
in his head after
sanity.
that. It's kind of sad. Like, the only survivors of Askeladd's group are those two brothers and Björn, I think, at least from what we saw. And now those two brothers essentially don't know each other anymore. It's really tragic.
I mean, I don't feel too bad I do feel bad, but or the tragedy of it. But Torgrim, like, he was causing trouble, man.
I mean, he had it coming.
He had it coming. The other brother, he was just kind of like hooked into it. Yeah. So I do feel a little sadder for him.
True.
But wish he would remain loyal.
Yeah, right.
Actually, speaking of the whole group dying, like, I did not expect Ears to die like that.
Yeah.
Be beheaded and then use as target practice.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so gruesome.
His death was the saddest for sure out of those.
Yeah.
Oh, because he was cool. Like, he kind of had, like, a superpower in a way.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh well.
Anyway, back to Thorkell. Just one other moment that just kind of blew my mind or amazed me was he punches the freaking horse and downs it. Like, oh my gosh!
Yeah, one punch and the horse is down.
Word.
Yeah, that was so. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Did you notice how much taller Thorkell was over even Thor's, who I thought was a pretty tall guy?
Yeah.
But Thorkell even towers over him. What? This man is huge.
Yeah, I mean, he is historically known as Thorkell the Tall, so he must have been tall.
He's got to be the tallest one.
Yeah, right.
No one can be taller.
Nope.
I wonder how tall Thorfinn will get.
Exactly. How much will he still grow, I wonder?
Yeah.
Because he is described as short, at least
right.
Thorkell referred to him as short. I mean, to him, everyone is short. But, but like, is Thorfinn shorter than average, I wonder? I mean, if he's 17 now, which is at least my estimation, how much do you actually grow after the age of 17? I don't think you grow that much, do you? Or I guess it varies.
It depends on the person.
Yeah. I suppose we'll see.
I would like if he got as tall as Thor's. I would like to see what Thorfinn would look like that. But I'm also thinking, like, well, his mother's kind of small, so maybe not. I don't know.
Fair, yeah. But Thorkell really took his battle with Thorfinn seriously, and that's something I really, really enjoyed. Like, not only did he stopped his men from laughing at Thorfinn at the beginning of the battle, kind of. Like, he even, like, completely he bonked one of them real good. And also, like, at the end, when his men, like, interfered in the battle, or in the duel, like, he got really mad at them. for that, and like it was like really like kind of tarnishing his honor and like all of that, which I thought that was really good to see, like that side of like that very serious side of Thorkell, which we hadn't really seen a whole lot of before. I will say, now that we've talked about, at least in my opinion, the four main characters of this, at least of these two volumes,
Mm-hmm.
at least for this, like the two books that we're talking about now, Thorkell is my favorite character in these books.
Mm.
Really, especially, I guess I should say probably like volume 6, like the latter part of this uh, combination of these two books. Like I really really enjoyed his character and kind of what we learned about his backstory with Thor's and all of that. He was fantastic, I thought.
I do like him a lot, but I think Askeladd is my favorite after the
Cool.
3 books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all in all, Askeladd is still my favorite. But if I'm just looking at just specifically what we're talking about today, I
Gotcha.
enjoyed Thorkell the most. But still, yeah, no, Askeladd is also my favorite overall.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, Knut had a great character arc as well
Yeah,
in these
he
books,
went up my list very like rapidly. Like, whoop.
for sure. Anyway, is there anything more on Thorkell?
Nope.
Then moving on to Willibald.
Willibald. Oh boy.
He was beginning to doubt God's love
Yeah.
early on in this, and we kind of got it more or less confirmed that yeah, he was talking about God's love earlier when we talked about it last time.
Yeah, but his idea of God's love, I feel like, is a bit different, and maybe for the
Mm,
time it was pretty accurate because, I mean, I feel like medieval Christianity was very much all about suffering and pessimism
yeah,
a,
yeah.
a lot of the time, and so it was kind of hard to understand what he was talking about because at one point he says, uh, "Death is what true love is," but then he talks about snow and the sky and everything like that.
Hmm.
So don't I wonder if it's not necessarily that death is the only thing that's true love, but all of the things of nature, all the things that don't show the ugly side, like can't you don't even have that possibility, is what true love is, at least according to um, Willie Bob.
Basically, anything that doesn't discriminate, that is love.
That's fair.
At least that's how I understood it, because he, at least the word discrimination came up, and I feel like that was a common factor in everything that was described as love, and that humanity or humans will always in one way or another discriminate, uh,
Mm.
and how that's why humans are incapable of in his opinion true love, and that's kind of also the mentality that Knut adapts.
He also mentions complain, which I don't know. Is that really discrimination?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
But I think it's almost like you have to be you only have to feel or not I guess feel nothing,
Mm,
and that's when you have love. You there is no feel but then I just think about, you know, what you were mentioning about his reaction to the true warrior thing, that mindset.
mm,
And it feels like that made an impression on him or at least brought some sort of memory back. So
yeah.
I so is it possible to have true love? Like and he sees Canute and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen a miracle." Is that true love? Like it doesn't
Mm,
seem like it should be possible based on his criteria.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think Knut, he kind of assumes a persona where he strives to be that perfect man that can truly love.
Mhm.
Perhaps like it like and he seems to genuinely try to really really achieve that, even though maybe it's, according to him and Willie Weld, maybe it is technically impossible for humans to do that because of the sins of Adam and
Mm.
Eve.
Mhm.
But at least perhaps it's seeing that really strong dedication toward it. Maybe that's what he deemed, like maybe that's what he sees as a miracle.
Hmm. I mean, to be to be fair, like that character change, that character development, it was a miracle in a way.
True. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
how quick it turned out to be.
Mm,
Um. So yeah, and again, as we mentioned earlier, I do see what he's saying. It is more of a pessimistic look on the love of God. It does get you thinking
mm,
about do we as human beings really love each other, or are we just discriminating against each other?
Yeah.
And is it possible to have true love?
Yeah.
True Dabu.
Exactly.
And then here's another thing they mentioned. I think they mentioned exiled from paradise. Adam and Eve, mankind was exiled from that. So there's another mention of
Oh
paradise,
yeah, that's right.
at
Yeah.
least with the Garden of Eden and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess tying that theme in, but also going forward, maybe we'll see uh, either Willie Ball change his idea of what true love is, or he'll see that his idea in Canute and maybe Thor's mindset. Although Thor's is dead, so.
Well, yeah. Yeah, like yeah, he's definitely like kind of like a sideline character, but he's so interesting in like with all of his kind of well his mindset and kind of how he in this book here how he influenced Knut in such a massive way. So like
Yeah.
he even though he is a small character, he definitely still has a big impact on the story. I think he's really interesting in that way.
Almost everyone he talks to, he gets them thinking in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah, I mean he really got the Vikings going. Like
Mm-hmm.
Thor or wait, was it Thorkell's Vikings? Last book where they had this whole,
Uh,
or was it Askeladd's Vikings? I can't remember now. It was Askeladd's Vikings, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was those brothers, Torgrim and Atli.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, yeah. But is that it on Willibald?
Yep.
Okay, then moving on to Ragnar.
He mentions a brother. Like,
Yeah.
it, some brother out there is waiting for them or is preparing something.
Hmm.
Well, I guess it jumped the gun. He died. Very
Well,
sad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was sad. It was sad because he was such a wholesome person.
Yeah, he was very wholesome.
Like his, like especially I thought seeing the scene at the beginning of this book when he and Canute and Thorfinn have the dinner where they make the rabbit stew and that whole scene which is so sweet and so
Mm-hmm.
like seeing Knute's and Ragnar's relationship there was just very wholesome.
It was pretty great.
Yeah, and glad we got to see that before his death, I suppose. Because yeah, it really just showed that really well.
Do you think his death was needed? Like, I know I made my thoughts, but
Hmm.
do you think it was necessary?
I mean, yeah, for this story to get to where it is right now, I think yes, it was.
Hmm.
So I guess yes. If he hadn't been if he hadn't died though, it's really hard to say where the story would be in that case. But
Well, could Canute ever become the leader of men that is supposedly now? If Ragnar was still alive, like 20 years down the line, could Canute still be that? I don't know.
that's a really good question. I definitely could imagine not. You know, if
Yeah.
Ragnar died of old age 20 years from now, then
Hmm.
maybe Knut would have never become a leader at all.
Mm.
I definitely could see that. So yes, in that sense, his death possibly was necessary.
I mean, it's kind of sad that I guess talking about Canute again is he was born to the in the situation he was,
Hmm.
but he just rather had been born a son to Ragnar,
Yeah. Right.
and not have all this political drama to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's crazy.
but hey, you can't choose who your parents are.
Nope.
Going to what I was first saying, he has a brother out there, and I just
Oh yeah.
I'm assuming we'll get to meet this person.
Exactly.
I'm thinking the next book,
I hope so.
just because where do they go from here? I assume they're going to try to find people who are on their side and try to, I guess, gain that type of thing. And it sounds like that Ragnar's brother would definitely be on their side.
Right. Unless they're going straight to King Svein.
Oh,
I don't know actually. But yeah. I mean, I do hope to see his brother,
well, maybe
especially
the
since he
brothers along the
mentioned him.
way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Then let's talk a bit about King Svein himself next. We still don't get to see his face. Now, I wonder if that's
Yeah.
for some like if there's actually a reason for that, like if there's something about his face that would reveal something, or if it's just for like ominous effect kind of. Um,
I could definitely see ominous effect,
mm.
but in the beginning we see him waking up, and I don't know. I just got the feeling that maybe he's not doing too well.
Ooh.
Like maybe he's sick or something,
Ah.
and perhaps that's why they're having this quarrel between the subjects, who should be the next king, is because maybe he's close to dying. And
Hmm.
maybe if you saw his face, you would see just how ghastly ill he is.
What made you think that he was ill?
So one, he's just barely getting up, but I guess you could say that's royalty getting to sleep in.
Yeah,
Um,
at least that's how I read it.
I look at his back and one. Yeah, he has scars, but he seems to have like blotches all over his skin. That, I don't know. It just doesn't look very healthy.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe,
So
maybe.
unless that's a shirt, it looks
Oh
like
yeah.
he's naked, but maybe that's a shirt.
In on the page before, it looks like he's wearing some sort of cloth.
Yeah, but in the back looks. I don't know.
No, I agree. I agree.
I could be wrong.
On those pages, it looks like he's bare chested or like bare torsoed.
But the other reason I say that is because he's not in battle, and maybe royalty shouldn't be fighting. I don't know, but he's never in the thick of it. Yes, he was on the sideline, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like a Viking king would be not ready for battle himself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, yeah, he might be old and he might be old and dying. It's possible. But Svein said in this book that if only Canute had greater affinity for ruling than his brother Harold, is a line that he says, and that made me think that Svein might see some other quality in Canute that he doesn't see in Harold. But since Harold, like he deems Harold to be the superior ruler, so with that he kind of has no hope for Canute, regardless of potential other
Mm.
strengths that he might see in Canute.
Hmm.
Or at least that's kind of the way I read that line. It could be basically that he sees some good qualities in Canute, but not necessarily what is the most crucial for leading a country, and that perhaps Harold has the better ruling qualities, but not those other things that might also be good, but not as essential. And that's kind of why he said that line, that kind of if only Knut had a greater affinity for ruling than his brother Harold, that if he had, then he would have wanted Knut to be his successor instead, perhaps.
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure about instead,
Yeah.
but I mean, I definitely feel like there's maybe a bit of lamentations there.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know.
Yeah. And I might just be reading too much into it, but it was just still a thought I wanted to throw out there.
I tell you, as someone who doesn't feel bad about all that, freaking Floki.
Yeah.
He's like all smiling. He's like, yeah, it's the most lamentable and grievous event, my liege. Oh no! I wonder who Floki supports.
Damn you, Floki.
Dude, man, guy's not even hiding it.
No. I like the wrinkles that Yukimura added, like going like from his nose to his like the corner of his mouth, kind of after the time skip. Because when like at the beginning when he came to Iceland, I don't think he had those. I might be
Oh,
misremembering, but
okay.
I don't think he had those. But then like ever since the time skip, then he's had those wrinkles there. I thought that was a fun addition. If they were added, I guess I could be wrong, but I don't think they were there the first time we saw him.
Gotcha.
Anything more on Svein?
No.
Okay, I have then. Well, I only have one more other character, and it's very briefly. I wanted to just mention Anne again, the girl from the previous book.
Yeah.
Just glad she survived, and she was able to get the message out about the Askeladd's group that destroyed her home completely. We're probably not going to see much more of her, sadly. We
Yeah.
talked about we
Yeah.
talked about her for quite a while last time because
We
because there was a lot of potential there. I still think so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at this point, I don't really think we'll see much more of her. I've also kind of started to lose faith in seeing anything more of Hordaland, who we saw in the first book. Like, I feel like both of those might just be kind of one and done,
One done,
perhaps. Yeah.
maybe.
Even though I would have loved to see more of both of them, really.
I guess Hordaland was just to emphasize the fact that slavery is a thing and that it could happen to anybody,
Yeah, true, true.
and also the the concept of Vinland and finding a paradise.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good scene,
Mm.
and also like the transition from that scene to like kind of going back in time to Iceland and Leif Eriksson's story about Vinland and all that. So yeah, it definitely served a purpose.
But yeah, definitely on story. I think is done here.
Yeah.
Um, oh well, you know, is what it is. I hope she has a happy life.
Absolutely. And I'd imagine if I was like maybe like 14 reading the story for the first time and being like super into it, I would probably write like a fan fiction where Anne is like the main character, just kind of where her life goes or something like that. I could totally imagine having done that. But anyway, I am almost 27 now, so I will not write that fan fiction. Uh, but do you have any other characters you would like to talk about?
Bjorn is still loyal to Askeladd even after all that. I commend him for that.
Hmm.
And then Floki, obviously he supports Harold.
Yeah.
At least that's the vibes I'm getting. And he might have even more planned. I'm not sure, but at the very least, yeah, he's supporting that prince. Still want to know more about why he felt the need to kill off Thor's like he did.
I probably stand by what I said when we in our first discussion about it being kind of a combination of like a combination of him not liking Thor's as a person after the fact that he deserted the Jomsvikings, and
Mm-hmm.
also the fact that he feels kind of threatened by the status that Thor's might take if he did return to the Jomsvikings, and that he might like Floki might kind of lose some kind of points or respect within the Jomsvikings if someone cooler than him would come back, kind of. It's still essentially my thinking on that.
Oh no, he's so cool!
I mean, it's true.
Curse you, Thors, and your epic coolness. I mean, you got a point. Like, maybe King, what's his name? The Baltic Sea King.
Or like the Jomsviking leader, or
Yeah. Sigvaldi.
Sigvaldi. Yeah, I don't think he's technically a king, even though he
Right.
might
Excuse me.
be
Excuse me.
called.
The title Battle King.
Right.
I know he's not a king.
Mm-mm.
Chieftain, I think, is what they called him.
Right.
Anyway, maybe he's not long for the world as well, or as I don't know. I guess I don't know if the
True.
actual king is ill or not. But maybe he's not long for the world.
Mm.
And there was talk from Thor. We heard from Thorkell that Thor's was going to be the next in line. I mean, clearly after marrying his daughter, I think that was obvious. So perhaps Floki wanting that position, if Thor's came back into the picture, that'd be an issue.
Exactly. Right. Precisely. That kind of goes along with that. But yeah, I think could be for those reasons.
Yeah, and I think that's everything I have. Yep, I think I'm good.
Cool. Then that brings us to the final bit. Obviously, we always sprinkle some speculations and predictions throughout the character discussions, but is there anything that you have left as far as those sorts of things go?
Yes, I do. Askeladd. What is going to happen to him? Like,
Yeah.
he joins Canute and along with Thorkell, and I don't know. Like, he seems pretty banged up, and maybe he'll heal, but I was kind of worried. Like, he might die by the end there. So I guess that some of my speculation or some of my worries is coming out in the speculation that is he going to last forever? He was talking about Ragnarok.
Yeah.
He wants that peace, potentially that freedom. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, and I really don't think Thorfinn is going to be the one to do it. I think that's going to be a thing he's going to have to see happen before his eyes, and he's going to be really mad, and have some angst, and then someone will help him get over it.
Yeah.
So, and who knows? Maybe it'd be Floki who comes in and does something. Although he seems to kind of want to stay away from the fighting at this point. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe he'll come
Yeah.
in. I don't think Thorkell will die yet.
No. Or who knows? So the next book, if I'm not mistaken, will get us caught up with anime season 1.
Okay.
So I guess somewhere in the back of my head I might know some things that might happen, but really it's very I do not remember much at all. But I do see more hope for Thorkell to live than Askeladd, I will say.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Just because Thorkell kind of feels like, although he does really want to die on the battlefield, but he kind of feels like an almost indestructible person. I mean, I think he will die eventually, but at this point, it feels that he's going to be more of a staple to. I don't know. Maybe I'm digging my own grave here.
He dies the first chapter, next volume.
Oh my gosh! You can't. No. So yeah, I think those are the potential deaths. Who knows about Bjorn? I think Bjorn could end up still living and maybe.
I really hope he does. He seems very injured. Like he seems more injured than Askeladd right now.
True.
At least I thought so. So I do worry about a bit for Bjorn. I worry for these dreadful people, but I do.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes has to pass, right? Or is Thorfinn gonna have a broken arm until the end of this?
End of
this war with Britain and I guess this upcoming war between Canute and his father. Like, is he just gonna have a broken arm the whole time, or are they gonna wait till spring?
I don't know exactly how like when this whole war ended and stuff like that. I do hope there's time for his arm to heal though, definitely.
Right? Because it's definitely broken. Like
yeah, that panel where he stands there and just falls down, kind of just tips down. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But
So I think those are the extent of my predict. Actually, so I think in the next book we will see Canute, I guess, start his battle against his father.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll conclude next volume because it almost feels like one an end of an arc happened in this book, and now we're starting a new arc, like almost a change of focus.
Yeah, kind of does feel like that.
Kind of like maybe like a mid arc change.
Yeah.
But that's gonna happen. I still wonder about Norway. Like, what are they doing during this whole time? Are they just minding their own business, or are they seeing like a chance to attack something of? Oh gosh, what if they go after Iceland?
If Norway goes after Iceland?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why would they though?
I don't know.
I guess I'm also trying to think how to bring Iceland back into the story.
Yeah, I mean we do want that. Like, we got Ylva over there. We want more of her.
I need more of her. Was there any? I don't think. Wait, was she even in this book?
Nope.
I don't think she was.
Nope.
This is the worst book in the series.
It's very sad. Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all I have. Did you have any? Well, I guess you already saw the season, but do you have any predictions that you want to just shout out?
Not really. I mean, first of all, as I said, I really don't remember the anime, especially the coming half of it, or the coming bit of it. I don't remember it very well at all. So, well, I mean, what we know for sure is that they're going to try to take down King Svein Forkbeard. So that's something I look forward to. How they go about that, obviously, I do not know. I legitimately actually don't know. But I look forward to seeing kind of how that goes about. And what I will say is that the front cover of the next volume, and as we said in our first discussion, the English books are 2 volumes in one. So the book that contains volumes 7 and 8, the cover of it has Askeladd on it, and he's wearing a crown, like a king crown.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
So I had the volume, but I haven't really looked at the cover.
Mm,
I knew I knew Askeladd was on it, but I didn't see the crown. So that's interesting. Oh, maybe he is a little more nefarious than I thought. Well, I'm excited. Okay, well let's end this so I can go read it.
Or actually, wait. Sorry. Let me correct myself. He's not wearing the king's crown, but he's like
Oh,
the crown is hanging off of the tip of his sword that he's keeping. Like he's holding a sword over his shoulder, and then the crown is hanging on the tip of the sword. So he's not wearing it technically, but there's still that king crown.
right. Still juicy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very, very juicy. So yeah, very excited for that one. Both because of I guess the cover art of the volume, but also because the fact that I will get caught up with any little thing that I still might know. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for that.
One random thing at the end of this volume, it says like, "See you June 2014 for the next book."
Yeah.
Like 2014. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's the English release. The Japanese release was at least a few years before that, because I think the first volume,
Yeah.
like it took a while for them to start adapting these into English books. So I think the gap between at this point in the story was bigger than it is now, I think. So yeah,
eh.
it's been going on for a while. I think the first chapter, at least published in a magazine, I think was in 2005.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But I suppose that's all for this week of Umami Manga.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about volumes 7 and 8. Bye bye.
See you later. This is kind of one of those memories you wish you didn't have. It was kind of an open mic kind of a situation,
Ooh.
and I decided to sing a certain song. I can't remember what song it was. It may have been something by The Fray, something like that. It was definitely not an original song.
Right.
But all these people there were, they had instruments. They were even in a band of singing their own songs, and then here comes this college kid singing like like he's on karaoke or something like that. Oh gosh, it's so embarrassing. Like looking back at it, I thought I just wanted to sing somewhere, but I could tell I was getting some weird looks. I was like, this is not the place. But I didn't even think about it too much at the time. It wasn't until a little later on that I was thinking, I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I really wish I didn't do that.